Hello, everybody. Good to see you. I'll have a brief statement here, and then we can get to your questions immediately. Hope everybody's doing well. Preseason camp, everybody got back on time and they were safe, so that's always exciting. And you always worry about young people driving back and forth from home. Opening days, like the opening day of baseball, it's fun, it's exciting. You can't wait to get out there. Everybody's fresh. Your team's, everybody's fighting for a position. So it's a fun day, and it should be. It's an emotional day and a day that when people walk out and say, we had a great first practice, if you don't have a great first practice, you're probably going to get fired. So you better have a great first practice, because they won't, they're not even tired when we get to this point. But it was organized, the coaches all being back except for Coach Porter, and he moved right in after spring practice, and that went well. We're staying at the hotel for preseason practice. We felt like that was safer. The players wanted to do it because they felt like that there were fewer distractions. And obviously with people coming back to campus and COVID being back out there, we have to be 85% herd immunity for us to eat back on our training table and meet in our meeting room. So we were actually more normal today than we've been since the pandemic hit. So we feel like that we can start working back to normal, but the Delta variant's out there. It's real. It's causing problems again. So players have to understand, coaches and staff, that we have to prepare for somebody to miss practice, miss a game. And so we've got a lot of things in place from last year, but we'll have to continue to have those this year. We've talked to our team about, we've got more depth, and you've got, as coaches, you've got to manage that and handle it. So what we're talking to our players about is we want you to play fewer plays, be more rested, and get more production with fewer plays. And that will be one of the goals as we continue to move forward. Special teams is the biggest emphasis of change. We've been average, and we need to pick it up and be much better. We need to start winning games in special teams instead of being in the middle of the league. So that's something that's really important to us as we're moving forward. That's part of depth. When you've got more depth, you should have better special teams. You play better players on special teams, and you've got other guys that can rest people during the game. So that'll be something we'll continue to do. Well, we're really excited about our recruiting. We're in some strong battles here at the end with some of the best teams in the country, and to be one of the best teams in the country, you got to battle and get the best players in the country. So we're excited about that moving forward. Questions?
All right, Coach, let's begin with Bridget Condon. Go ahead, Bridget.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach. Just two quick things. You mentioned wanting to get to that 85% and feeling that normal. Is that where you guys are at? And is that how you've been able to feel normal today?
Bridget, it is. I'm not sure what the exact numbers are. The medical team and staff handles that, but they've said that we have to wear a mask in the building on campus. So all of our players are wearing masks, vaccinated or unvaccinated, in the team meeting room. And we have certain people that can't eat, depending on whether you're vaccinated or not, or what that number is in each of the meeting rooms. But the medical staff with the county health department's done an amazing job of working it out so we can move back in. But we've got to be smart. We've got to be careful to be able to continue to work in the more normal space.
And then just real quick, following up on that, what is the biggest thing you hope to see change from today into 3 weeks for your team? Is it to just kind of bond and get that normal feeling of what it's like to be on a team? Is it learning the playbook? Is it just, getting comfortable with where things are?
We felt like, Bridget, today that the guys had already been through the COVID guidelines and protocol for a full year and more than a year now. So it wasn't a big disruption. We'd worked on it for the summer. They knew what was going to happen. When they're on the buses together, they have to have their mask on. At practice, we're outside, we're open air. They'll let us take our mask off. But COVID's still real. And that's one thing that I think is much more normal for them now than it was this time last year. We were hoping it would be gone. It's not. So it's here. So we've still got to deal with it. Secondly, you get your newcomers that came in June that have to learn to practice, and they get in the flow of practice. The other guys, we had 12 guys come in in January, and they learned to practice this spring. So practice was pretty good. And I just got a list. We had way too many penalties, and so there are a lot of things that you just have to start addressing. It's nearly like 51st dates sometime. It's like they forget that they weren't offsides last spring, and so you just start over. And we'll have a good hard meeting this afternoon with our staff, then another meeting tonight, and hopefully clean up some of those mistakes we made today tomorrow.
Well, let's go over to CL Brown, please.
Hey, Mack, excuse me, I got a question about the musical selection. I noticed late in the periods, you guys have put up your fours for fourth quarter, and Enter the Sandman is playing, and obviously that's the Virginia Tech intro song. I was wondering how you were using that to kind of get the players ready for the opener.
CL, very honestly, I didn't even notice it. I was working, and Coach Hass handles all the music with the players, so that one's out of my wheelhouse.
Well, obviously, you guys don't. You got to get your stuff in, and you're not, looking at them right now in terms of scheming. But how do you kind of use that first game as a carrot to make sure everybody is sharp?
Our players have tremendous respect for Virginia Tech. In fact, they've had our number for the last number of years. And then we had the 6 overtime game last time we played in Blacksburg. So our guys have great respect for the team. They know how hard it is to play up there. They've got one of the best fan bases and entrance with Sandman and in college football. So we don't have to say a whole lot. We're talking to them about get yourself ready, be a better player. What can you do? What can I do? What can you do to make your team better on a day-to-day basis? And then if we're doing that as a group, then playing's easy. But let's don't worry about who we're playing. Let's worry about us getting to be the best team we can be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go over to Hunter Nelson, please.
Hey, Coach, thanks for joining us here today. So obviously, when you first arrived to Chapel Hill the second time, your first major move was getting Sam Howell to flip from Florida State to UNC. And now 2 years later, he's the ACC preseason player of the year, set multiple records, and is in the talks for top pick in the 2022 NFL draft. Being the optimistic guy that you are, could you have even predicted that his rise would come this quickly?
Hunter, I really couldn't. You just never know. We had 2 other good quarterbacks here, and Cade Fortin and Jace Reuter, and they were competing for the job in the spring. So we didn't know until fall that he would be starting. And then he's just done such a tremendous job. So it's been a wonderful story. But at the same time, I think you've got to give Sam credit for he's stayed healthy. He's been a leader. He's been very, very productive. He's won some big games for us, and we're just ready for him to take another step this year. But he is we've made a lot of progress. We're a lot better looking football team right now than we were 2 years ago when we got here. We've recruited really well and really hard, and I give that credit to our players and our staff. But our players recruit really well for us. But Sam's been one of the major reasons that we're a much better football program going into year 3. And what we've challenged our team and our staff in year 4, Sam probably will be gone. We've still got to be a great program. So we need to be the program, not just the quarterback.
Okay, Michael Coe, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. So obviously one of the biggest weapons you acquired in the offseason was Ty Chandler transferring in from Tennessee. How excited are you to have a veteran like Ty in the backfield, a backfield that just lost Javonte and Michael to the NFL?
Well, we're really excited about Ty. But, number one, he's talented. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's shown that ability. He's got an all-purpose yardage record at Tennessee. He could return punts and kickoffs, but he's older. He's played in games against Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and Florida when he was at Tennessee. So this isn't, he won't be surprised or shocked or big-eyed when he goes to Virginia Tech. And since that room was rather inexperienced, we felt like that we needed to bring in an older, more experienced running back. And we've been really, really excited about THI.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Aaron Beard, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, you threw a phrase I had not heard when you last week the other week at kickoff when you said we've had sugar thrown all over us about the expectations and for this year's group, and comparing that to where you guys had been when you came in. You had to teach a team you are good enough to win games. I'm curious, kind of how much are you having to hammer that, you haven't done anything yet with this particular team on the field, the hype and all those things. Are you going to hammer it a lot, do you think, like with the Florida State game last year, or do you trust them to be mature enough to understand it?
Aaron, it's a great question, and we addressed it last night when the team got back. We've addressed it some this summer. I think the fact that they were 5th in the country without earning that right going to Florida State and then just played so poorly the first half, it's a learning experience. And we weren't ready to be a top-ranked team at that time. And what we've told them is quit talking about it and do it. And that's your work every day. So they understand that we're not talking about anything except the first 3 games anyway. That is our season right now. We're not even talking about the opener yet, as I mentioned to CL. But what we are talking about is be the best team we can be. And if our offense plays really, really well in practice and our defense can step up to them, then that's going to be a great test for us to show us that if we can compete in practice with each other, we've got a chance to compete with anybody we play against.
Okay, let's go over to Dennis Dodd.
Hey, Mac. I know you kind of had to be brought around on NIL, or at least that's what I read by Sally, but is there another dynamic here in terms of the locker room, not only at North Carolina, but all over the country with some of the skill players, with NFL representation and getting the most money? How have you dealt with that?
Dennis, the thing that you learn as you are in this business, like you've been for a long time and I've been for a long time, is things have a way of leveling out. And so what we're trying to do at North Carolina, and I'm proud of Bubba and the administration, they want to obviously go by the rules, but give our players every possible advantage that they can have, whether it's group licensing with jersey sales or video games, or because you don't worry about the Sam Howells of the world. He's going to make his money and he'll make more in January. But you worry about the right guards, you worry about the walk-ons. So if we're representing our teams, maybe name, image, and likeness helps a young artist that can get some opportunities to sell his art. And maybe he's not even going to play that much. Or maybe it helps a Tamon Fox who is an artist, where he can sell his stuff and get a head start on the world when he gets out. The other thing I've learned from it, Dennis, is that it's teaching these young people about federal taxes and state taxes and agents and percentages that agents get, and that some of these deals that sound really, really good aren't as good as they sound like by the time you pay out all the things you're going to pay out. So I really feel like with our team, we've had 4 or 5 meetings on name, image, and likeness. We've talked to them about group licensing. We've talked to them about Compass, which they've got to be approved before they can get their opportunities. And at the same time, we've told them we can't get opportunities for them. That's not our job. And I think they understand it. It was not even mentioned last night. I think it was good that it happened in July. Let's move on. I think there's more confusion in recruiting than there is with the actual guys on your team, because they say you can't use it for an inducement in recruiting. They say you can't do it for pay for play. So that gets gray. It gets confusing some to people out in communities that want to help the local high school star. But we have to stay completely out of it. So I think, like the transfer portal, I think it will settle down over time and people are going to realize I shouldn't jump so quickly. That grass may not be greener. I think what we're realizing with players is that not everybody on the team is going to make a whole lot of money. And everybody thought they were. And we've got 800 athletes at North Carolina. And how many are going to make a lot of money? And what is a lot of money? I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be significant enough. So what we've done, Dennis, is said, make it about your ball, not your brand. You can work on your brand over time, but without your ball, you're not going to make any money. So stay out of trouble, graduate. That's where your money's going to be on the back end anyway. If you can brand yourself and we can help brand you in this process, good for you. Maybe we'll get a head start on the field when you get out, but don't start sitting around trying to cut opportunities and not play, because people are only going to pay you if you're bringing some positive attention to their businesses.
Great. Good luck.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right, Andrew Jones, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Coach, today in looking at the defensive line this morning, I was just struck at how much that room has changed just in the last couple of years. Can you kind of speak to the quantity in that room, the quality in that room, even though a lot of the guys are young, how many players that you guys feel you're going to be comfortable at some point, maybe by the middle of the season, you can rotate in there, and how much you expect that should improve what you guys were able to do up front defensively?
Andrew, I think it's without question, to me, the most improved position on our team. And it's obviously, you talk about Sam and the quarterback room's looking really, really good now moving forward, but you've got to be able to stop the run. You've got to be able to disrupt the passer. And we have not been able to consistently do that. So that room looks good. We're going to get off the bus and walk into the stadium looking like a much better football team than we have in the past. And we've lost too many close games in the end. And I feel like that's because an A&M beat us down and a Notre Dame beat us down in the fourth quarter. So we feel like that's why one of our mantras is going to be fewer plays and more production. We want you to be fresh. And we want you to be 100% every play on that field. And then what we have to do is Coach DeWitt and Coach Cross have to do an outstanding job of figuring out who earns the most number of plays and who can be most productive with that right number. And when do you take a Miles Murphy out and put a Jabari Ritzie in? I mean, that's when you've got to start figuring out now what that dynamic is. But I do feel like that it's going to be fun to watch those guys compete.
If I can ask quick follow-up, I counted 10 guys in that group today, legitimate scholarship guys that look the part already. Can you envision a scenario where you guys can maybe rotate 8 to possibly 10 guys at some point in an important game?
You can, Andrew. What we've got to do is figure out who can rotate and make plays. And that's the thing. They don't just need to look pretty, they got to play. So we've told the guys, you start making a difference and we'll play you more. But that's what we have to start doing at receiver, at running back, and at that defensive line spot is we're just not going to let you play because you look pretty. We're not going to let you play because you're talented. So when you're in the game, be disruptive. And when you're in practice, make plays and make enough plays that we feel like you've earned the right to play. So it's going to be harder to get playing time now than ever before. That affects morale on your team, but that's all stuff that we have to deal with now as coaches. As your program grows and gets better, those are new challenges. And we as coaching staff take on that challenge. I love the fact that 8 of our 10 coaches have either won national championships or Super Bowls. So they've had to deal with a lot of really good players before. And we're starting to do that. And to do that, you've got to keep the most productive ones on the field. And that's so you have to do a great job with practice. Our coaches are up there grading it right now. And they'll grade every step and every effort. And guys are going to have less room for error if they want to play.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Davis Wallace.
Hey, Coach. I recently heard from Chris Simmons. He was giving you praises and talking how great of a communicator you are. So I was just wondering, with your great communication skills, is that something that you were born with, or is that something that you learned later on?
Davis, I was really lucky that my granddad was the love of my life. And he was the nicest and most friendly person I've ever met. to this day. And we lost him when he was in his 90s, and he had dementia when we lost him. And I try to go back and remember how old I was when he was so influential with me, because as a high school football player, my granddad was superintendent of schools. So every summer I went to the lake fishing with him at night. I fished in the morning early, and I worked the fields for his little league baseball and softball recreation stuff all summer. And my granddad never ever walked by somebody without speaking to them or shaking their hand or saying hello. And my granddad told me that a gift that you have is your smile, and a gift that you have that you can give somebody else is to remember their name. And then when I got to Texas, Coach Royal, the legendary coach there, who was very much like my grandfather for me, he more like an older brother at this time, he said, "Now, Coach, that you've been a head football coach, you know you're going to sign a lot of autographs, you're going to take a lot of pictures, but you should never, ever walk by anyone, no matter how young or how old they are, without stopping and smiling and shaking their hand and taking a picture or signing an autograph. And remember, it's not about you, because the next guy they hire is going to be doing the same stuff. But that's a gift that you should give people." So I like people. I like being nice. I like making people smile. It's fun for me. And the only thing you have to balance is when you do stop and speak to people and shake hands and take pictures, you don't want to be disrespectful to people who are waiting on you and make them have to wait because you're late, because I'm obsessed with being late. I just can't handle that. But I do think that a part of what I'm loving is having fun and smiling and meeting people and putting a smile on a young child's face.
Yeah. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Davis.
Okay, let's go over to Bill Bender.
Hey, Mac, good afternoon. A lot of coaches, when they go into a program, they always use 4 or 5 year timeline to be where they want to be. I mean, you guys obviously have had a lot of success in a hurry, and I was wondering if you took any of the lessons here with this job from when you started back at Texas way back. I know it's a long time ago in the 90s, but it's kind of the same track in some ways of you guys starting to play for bigger things with each season, but almost faster.
Bill, I do feel like that I'm a much more knowledgeable coach now than I was when I was here before or when I started at Texas. I do feel like that my 5 years out really helped me on some perspectives at looking at different things. I also understand that recruiting is a huge key. You've got to coach well, but without good players, some people say, well, they won, but they had really good players. Well, good coaches have good players. And that's just part of this process. And the faster you can win or get some attention, get new facilities, do positive things, the faster you get better players. And right now we're attracting really good players across the country. And it's because it's a great college town. It's because we've got a tremendous academic school. We're winning, we're having fun. We've got a top quarterback. The kids are realizing we're recruiting other really good players. So you get to be the cool place to be. And I think, Bill, more than anything else right now, that we got fortunate that we lost a few games, but still were able to get to the Orange Bowl. And a January 6th bowl in your second year after you'd won 2 games 3 years ago gives great attention to a program moving forward. So I think that's the biggest thing is I've told our coaches, don't use excuses. Coach Fedora left us a lot of really good players and some great kids. Bubba Cunningham and the university have really stepped up with the facilities. We're redoing them all again right now, and we've got a lot of positive things that were done over the last 2 years with our facilities. We challenged our fans to step up. The fans, they're selling out every game. They sold them out. Only one of 7 teams to sell out all the games 2 years ago. Before COVID, then last year we all had the awful year with health and sickness and pandemic, and now our fans are buying all the tickets out again. So, Bill, right now, just things are so positive that it's so much fun that it's just it's fun to come to work, and It's fun to see the excitement for North Carolina football fans and see where they're going. People are asking about the pressure and the hype. Does that worry me? I've always felt like it's pride, and how cool for us to come back and have so much pride in this program right now moving forward. Does it mean we're ready to win all the games? No. I mean, we've got to do that. We got to coach them. But are we going to run scared because people think we got a chance to be good? That's a great thing. And I think that's something that I can embrace because of the experience I've had as a coach, and not sit and worry about it, start talking about how bad we're going to be and all the excuses that the reason we're not going to win and all that. I'm not going to do all that stuff. And like I said, Coach Fedora did a good job. We had nice young players here. Academically, the kids are at a 997 APR. We're adding facilities. Recruiting's going well. We've got better depth. I love our staff. We were able to keep all but one. So, Bill, we're just on a roll. Things are good, and I'm excited about it.
Right. Brendan Marks, go ahead.
Hey, Matt, good afternoon. You mentioned the depth you guys have in a number of different positions. I wanted to ask specifically about the pass catchers that Sam has to work with, the receivers, the tight ends. What sort of growth did you see from those guys over the summer? And relative to where you would eventually like their chemistry with Sam to be, where would you say they are now?
Brendan, one of the things you can really improve in the offseason is throwing and catching. You know, they don't change that much. They can have player-led practice every day. They can have 7-on-7s. And it's not that much different than it was this morning. We just couldn't be out there. And when you've got an older quarterback like Sam and guys like Emory Simmons and Bo Corrales and Garrett Walston, they've done this enough that they could have their own practice. So I really felt like they looked good this morning. There's a lot of continuity. Josh Downs he's made so much progress in the year that he's been here. So we're excited about him. We were talking about Emory this morning. He's just a very good football player. He's the same guy every day and has that energy. Bo did some good things today. Bo's had a lot of experience. He'll be a really good player. Chaffrey's fast and well. And so you've got Antoine Green, who you'd love to see make a huge jump. And he did some this morning. You've got Justin Olson that's coming on. And you've got some other young guys out there that Stephen Gosnell's well. So I think right now the fun thing is we're more like we were 2 years ago when people weren't sure about Daz and they weren't sure about Diami because they dropped too many balls and they weren't consistent. So we're kind of like that now about who is this guy? Who's going to step up? But there's enough bodies there that have talent, and Lonnie Galloway and Larry Porter have probably, to me, the hardest job on the team of making sure they separate those guys, but get them ready to play, and do that with good morale, team morale, and with receivers, you run so many, not wearing them out. So that's the other thing. You don't want to take some out too soon. So is Tylee Kraft. How much can he get some work now? And is it his turn to step up? And so we're having a learning period here at a time where we've got a short time span between now and Virginia Tech to get ready to go.
Okay, Adam Smith, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Mack, you mentioned earlier in your opening, you said COVID is still real. And, you know, listening to you at the end of spring, listening to you in Charlotte at the kickoff, is there frustration that you feel just about that? You know, I mean, you see in the NFL, Mike Zimmer, Ron Rivera, these guys coming out about the frustration they're feeling. Am I hearing you right on that? There's a sense of frustration in going through this again and dealing with the things you have to deal with?
We were also spoiled, and we had our football like we wanted it. We have our pageantry, we had our crowds, we had our dance teams and cheerleaders and bands, and you all were in the press box, and we saw you afterwards, and we took all this for granted. And then our lives were just absolutely changed, and we didn't like it, but we handled it. And then I felt like a lot of others, like I felt like we were through with it, and moving forward, we wouldn't have to deal with it anymore. We're still going to deal with it. I don't know what it means. I feel like we'll have full crowds, and I'm excited about that. But will we have press conferences again soon, like we did before? I read some people are saying you have to be vaccinated to come to a press conference, and some are not. Will all of your players and all of your staff get vaccinated? That doesn't look like, with the percentages across the country, that's going to happen. Would it be better for me if everybody was vaccinated? Sure it would, but that's not my choice. Our choice is to educate our players and staff on what we feel like is best. It's their place to make a decision, no different than opting out, no different than going to the NFL. We give them options and educate them on the options, and then they make the decisions. So I think the thing that may happen is that we as coaches may be sitting there again Saturday morning trying to figure out who's going to play in the game. And I thought we were past that. So that is frustrating. But instead of whining about it or griping about it, what we've got to do is, if there's a staff member that might not be able to coach, then we've got to have somebody ready to take his place. If there's a player that's vaccinated and one that's not, you've got to be ready if that vaccinated player is going to be able to play, but you may get the call on Saturday morning. You can't depend on the unvaccinated player 100%. You're going to have somebody ready to step in for him at whatever position it is to move forward. So again, I think it just goes back to the ones that handle the distraction the best. The number one thing is keep your players and staff safe. That hadn't changed. And the number two is to do the best job of managing your football program throughout the COVID year again, understanding that everything that I see, it looks like we're going to have some phase of this Delta variant during the season.
Over to Greg Barnes. Go ahead.
Hey, Mack, noticed that at halftime of practice, the guys came in and they had the mist machine and they had snacks laid out for them, and they were all laying down resting. Quite a different scene than I imagine what would have occurred 30 years ago. Can you kind of explain how the nutrition and the health aspect of these practices and training camp have changed over your career?
Yes, Greg, it's a great point. What we try to do is have halftime to simulate the practice being more like a game. So this is where you're going to go. Here's where you're going to sit. Here's what your coaches are going to talk about. Here's the nutrition that's going to be available for you. Here are the fluids to hydrate. We actually are working so hard now with the best players against the best players with special teams that they also walk from special teams to the next period so they can hydrate because they're running so much during all of them across the board in the special teams period. And we explained to them after practice today that when Tommy Thigpen played, when Rick Steinbacher played, Corey Holiday played, you had 2-a-days every day. And that you at least had 10 days of them and maybe 15. Some people had 3-a-days. They would stick it in the middle. So it's ridiculous for you not to take care of your body when you're only practicing once a day, when at some point there were 2 to 3 practices a day and people still made it, and it wasn't healthy and it probably wasn't smart. We're doing a much better job now than we did then. But Kelsey Gomes, our nutritionist, is at every practice. She's got about 9 assistants, most of them interns, and they're out there and they're assigned to every position, every minute of every day. She and Coach Hess work so closely together. They have a GPS that they put on them to see how fast they ran during practice, see how much they run during practice. They can even tell Greg if somebody ran more than they would like and there's a different color on their chart, that we have to give them more fluids or run them less or practice them fewer periods the next day so they won't pull up. So it's, and we can show the players at each position who ran the fastest from here to there, and that he was much faster than you. So, and show them that on Monday you ran fast, on Thursday you didn't run as fast. You're not getting some sleep, you're not taking care of yourself. So this technology is just so advanced. It keeps the kids safer, but gives us much more information. They have shown that you spend so much more energy on a Tuesday's practice before a rival game than you do a normal game. So you really have to be careful and not over practice them on Tuesday before a rival game because they could be too tired because they're so excited. So it's very interesting just to look at every little phase of this as you start going through it. The trainers and nutritionists will check this afternoon with Coach Hess to see who might be more limited in the morning. And it's funny, it was cooler today, but you can still have cramps on cool days. So what I'll do is in the staff meeting this afternoon, I'll say who cramped up, who got close to cramps, which of the GPS people do we need to be aware of for in the morning? Should we hydrate them more at dinner? And we keep bottles of Gatorade in every meeting. But it has gotten to be a huge process. It's not just one of those things that we just have a trainer out there anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ross Martin, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I asked Sam Howell about this, about kind of the pressure of all these expectations on this team this year, the preseason rankings, his Heisman hopes, the preseason awards, and whether he felt the pressure. How do you kind of handle that? How do you talk to him about that? Do you think he senses the pressure? Because as we know, he's a pretty calm, cool, and collected.
Yes, Ross, I learned probably more of that through the Texas process. And I learned that people early would say, are we going to be good next year? And I'd say, we're going to be good every year. That's just who we are. That's our program. We're not a program that wants to be a one-trick pony and we're just good for 1 year. And what Sam has done is Sam has consistently improved, and therefore over the first 2 years, as he's improved, he has gotten tremendous amounts of publicity. And the stats are just tremendous stats. So, I mean, it's easy to brag on him, but he's not going to change. I've watched him all spring. I watched him at the media day. I feel like he's carrying himself with more confidence, and he's embracing this moment where he's helped North Carolina football take a huge step, and he wants to finish that step with us and elevate to the next level, which he should. But he also knows he doesn't want to leave this as a 3-year program. So that's why we've got the younger quarterbacks, and he's working with them so hard. And he knows that we've got really good players coming in. We have never asked Sam Howell to recruit for us that he didn't come and recruit. A lot of the arrogant players on your team or the superstars would say, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't have time. We needed Sam to run by the house, or we needed Sam to sit down with a prospect. We needed Sam on a Zoom call. Coach, just tell me what you want. And that's it. So he's handled name, image, and likeness better than I ever would have, especially at his age. I'm still just taken back that his first opportunity was to help kids eat. I mean, how cool is that? That's way out there for his age group. He's also done things for other players through name, image, and likeness that he wouldn't want me to tell you, but he's refused to be involved unless they help the other players. And I've watched it. I've said nothing to him about name, image, and likeness, not one thing. And then at the same time, he'll ask us, what can I do? What do you need me to do, Jeremy? Do I need to do some other stuff? Do I need to sign some stuff for anybody? What can I do to help the team with group licensing? He signed up for group licensing to help the whole team with jerseys and jersey sales and with video games, Ross, and he didn't have to. He can get all that money himself, but he's just, he's very unselfish. He's very smart. He's very driven. He wants to do everything perfect, but I don't see his personality changing because of an award or the possibility of an award. And he'll never say anything bad about an opponent. He's being more vocal with our team. I told the guys this morning that Tom Brady played the whole year last year with a torn PCL, and then supposedly in 7-on-7 the other day, he went off because they weren't competing at a high enough level. And that's the drive of a champion. And that's what we've got to be. We've got to be pushing ourselves, not listening to people who we don't need to get an edge or a chip on our shoulder because of what somebody else says. We need to do this because we want to do it and we want to be good enough. And that's where I think Sam is, Ross.
Okay, Josh Graham, go ahead.
Coach, given that you were in Austin for the last realignment process or realignment round, I just want to know how surprised you were to see that Texas and Oklahoma joined the SEC.
Oh, I was very surprised. I had not heard it. I was in the middle of our media day at the ACC in Charlotte, and Jeremy walked over and handed me the phone with an announcement on it right in the middle of an interview. And I said, "Great, Jeremy, thanks. That's good timing." But I really don't know that much about it. You know, I've talked to Bubba about this global thing, about the national thing. How much do we feel like this changes, and what changes could be made? Because that's what affects us more than anything else. I've had a lot of people ask me about the Texas OU decision. That's not my place. I don't work there anymore. So my thought is North Carolina. I feel like from what I'm hearing that we're moving forward with the ACC and things are great. Could something happen 4 or 5 years down the road? Sure. None of us thought that this would happen before. And I was right in the middle of all the realignment. I think it was like 08. I can't remember now, but I thought we were an hour away from going to the Pac-12 when we were at Texas. And then all of it changed. So it was real. And then there were some talks with Texas and the ACC at that time. I knew that. Am I surprised? I don't think anything really surprises us anymore. Did it catch me off guard? Yes. But I don't talk to my friends about Texas football as much as I used to, obviously. Will it affect us? We are so lucky, and this will sound very arrogant, but it's facts. So we are an AAU university. So we're one of the best academic universities in the country. And that will hold weight if people start moving around to different mega conferences. We have one of the best brands in the world. Our basketball is great. Our football is on a surge. We have 28 sports, and just about all of them are national sports. We got 8-10 national championship coaches on our campus. So the way I would understand it, Josh, is if anything changed, which I hope it doesn't. I love the ACC and I love the way we've got it. And if they want to add Notre Dame or do something, I got all that stuff to enhance our brand. But if something changes, North Carolina will be one of the more popular schools across the continent that people will want to have involved in their process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Gregory Hall, go ahead.
Mack, I wanted to ask you about the tight end group. It seemed that Garrett Walston, Kamari Morales, and Bryson Nesbitt got a lot of work today. Just curious how you plan to use the tight ends more now that Diami and Daz aren't a part of the team.
Greg, I felt like at the end of last year, Phil Longo and John Lilly got on the same page better, and we were using Garrett a lot more at the end of the year. And I think that's one of the reasons that Garrett wanted to come back. He came back because he feels like we're going to use the tight end more, and he came back because he wants to enhance his position with the NFL, and he wants us to win. So I got all that. And we did not ask him to come back. I mean, that would be wrong of us. We're glad he came back. And he's worked really hard, and he's in tremendous shape. But I do think the fact that Coach Lilly brought so many NFL thoughts back in the tight end position, and he and Phil have had a year together, that it really puts us in a position moving forward for the tight end to be a bigger impact. And what you have to look at when you've got Daz and Diami, they're real good. So you got the two backs, they're really good. So there's only one ball. And who do you give it to? And it's hard to take it out of Javante's hands or Michael Carter's hands or Diami or Daz. So then you have to look at where does Garrett fit in that group of rotation with the balls to be successful. And we feel good about him right now going into the end of the season. And Bryson's first time we've seen him, and we all walked out of there thinking he looked really good today.
And then with Brian Anderson limited or not out there available right now, who do you see vying for that backup center spot?
You've got Q Johnson, who would be the guy that played when Brian got hurt against Wake Forest last year. or against Duke. Q stepped up and played against Wake Forest. And then you've got some other guys behind. You've got Jonathan Adorno, who could play there. You've got AJ Beatty, who moved over there. So Brian should be ready to go for the opening game. And this just gives us some other snaps with younger players to try to get somebody else more ready to play. Chance Carroll's another guy that's played there some as a walk-on. So we're starting to develop some depth at the center spot for the first time.
Okay, we'll close up today with a question from Brendan Marks. Go ahead, Brendan.
Hey, Mac, I know you just said a lot about COVID. I just had a follow-up. What has been the education process with the team on that? Have you guys brought in people from the hospitals? Have you brought the team to the hospitals? Have you had Q&As? I mean, what has sort of been the education process with the virus, the vaccine, and how have guys sort of handled all that?
Brendan, when it first started with the vaccine, we brought in a Dr. Webb from the CDC in Washington, D.C. And he met with our players, he met with our parents, he met with our staff, and went through the entire process. And then every time that we get anything from the media, pro or con, about the vaccine, we send it to our team. And then every team meeting, every staff meeting, I address it with something. And we've had numerous calls with Dr. Sioka, our medical staff, and our parents, and our even our recruits. So we feel like that overeducating is the best possible thing that we can do. And then the guys have to make their own choice. And we need people from the medical field to tell them the consequences if they get sick. And this is what happens. And it's not our decision. It's out of our hands. And the health departments in each county are the ones that make those decisions. And you just get into how many times the unvaccinated people are tested. And then you get into what is contact tracing if you've got the vaccine, and what is it if you're not, and is a roommate contact tracing. And so it just gets really complicated, but it's all handled by the medical staff. Then you have another group of the ACC medical protocol staff from doctors across the league. And then they make decisions that will tell us how many times will the players be vaccinated during the fall, and when, and how will that happen. And so it's a little overwhelming for them. I told them last night, we went back through all of it, but I told our team that I don't want to come in here and tell you all these things that are bad to start the season, but I've got to be factual. And if I could not talk about COVID again, I'd love it, but I have to, because it's my job to educate you. And if you get sick and can't play, then I need to tell you right now what those guidelines are. So they're probably a little tired of hearing it, but it's important. And what we talked last year, I told them at least now we don't have to have masks at practice. Last year, I spent more time in preseason yelling, pull your mask up, put your helmet down, than I did coaching. So we're not going to have to do that. So that's a positive thing. A couple of quick notes as we exit, unless you've got something else, is that we have a competition through the summer with all of our players. They have a draft, and it's really a cool draft. And after they draft, then one team wins the competition. That competition is eating every meal and going to every class and not missing a tutoring session and making good grades and doing best in your workouts. And the two highest point getters, interestingly enough, the highest one by far was Javari Ritzy, a high school senior that came in January. And the next most productive player was Drake May. So it was, I had them break down the team this morning because they had the most points of any of our whole team. And I told the team, it's a little embarrassing for young ones to come in and beat you guys out. So understand that. The other thing we've got is a couple of things that in closing here that are really cool. Denoris and Kiki Searcy gave a major gift to name the defensive back room after them. So that's really cool for ex-players to give back. Hakeem Nicks gave a major gift to name the wide receiver room after him, which is cool. Brian and Courtney Chakos and Trey Edge, who both played here, gave money for Mitch Mason's office to be named after Mitch. Mitch has been fighting through a sickness, but he's doing much better. He was at the team dinner last night. He was at the team meeting this morning and started us off with a player blessing the team. So hopefully he's doing better. We mentioned at the spring game that Quincy Monk had a group of players that raised money to have the naming of the linebacker room. And that's Corey Bailey, Doug Brown, Mercedes Perry, Danny Davis, Will Chapman III, Richard Moore, Billy D. Greenwood, Anthony Anderson, Rufus Brown, William Bigham, Jeff Reed, and Joe Evans. So those 12 people gave money to name the linebacker room after Quincy Monk. And then Jeb Terry, an offensive lineman, gave money to name the lineman of the week wall. So a lot of guys are getting involved with naming opportunities. And then last, and one that I'm very, very proud of, is Jeff Saturday just gave a significant gift to name the offensive line room, the Saturday family offensive line room. Jeff was a tough player here. He created an edge. He's what you want your offensive line to be about. I love him as a person. We're fortunate enough now to coach his son, Jeffrey, on our team. But good for Jeff Saturday to give back to his program and his team with the naming, and the Saturday name will be on that offensive line room for the rest of the time we have football here. Anything else, Mark, before we close? Anybody else have anything you need?
Nope, I think we covered everything today, Coach. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Great. You all stay safe and yell at Jeremy if you need something.